The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Did you know at TriCrest, we've built a kick-ass culture, coach and consultant program? So if you're a business coach or consultant and you're looking for something new, add to your toolbox, or even escape the 9 to 5, join us at our next event. Links in the information on the podcast. See you there. Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. I'm absolutely delighted today to have Kay Suthar with me. Hello, Kay. How are you?
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
That's an absolute pleasure. I'm slightly nervous because you are a podcast queen.
There's nothing to be nervous about at all.
So you are benefiting from my brand new studio. Yeah. So this has been in the making for about 6 months and it's finally ready. Yeah. So welcome to the podcast sofa.
I love the lights behind you. All I can see is Rebel at the moment. I'm like, oh yeah, Rebecca the Rebel. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm going to show you and all the view. It says Rebel Rebel.
Ooh,
Yeah.
double.
Yeah, because David Bowie obviously is my favorite artist of all time, and our TriCrest brand is founded in rebellion.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is really cool. There's a story behind that as well, right? Because it's funny because I guess like myself, anybody else probably sees you and be like, oh, you know what, Rebecca, like she's awesome, she's polite, right? She probably just sticks by the rules, doesn't swing off track. And there's a story behind you being a rebel, especially rebel. There's a double whammy there. So there's plenty of stories to be telling there, I can tell.
Today is about you, Kay. Not about me. Today is about you. Because when we chatted a few months ago, I was like, how the heck did you end up having this amazing business, being the podcast queen? I just love it. Empress of all podcasts. Tell us your story. How did you get going? Where did it all begin? Because it wasn't normal, was it?
No, it wasn't. Not at all. And to be fair, I kind of fell into the whole world of podcasting. But previous to that, I mean, I went from job to job to job to job, right? Because a lot of people out there know what they want to be. But I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? All I knew is that I wanted to either work with the Ninja Turtles or become a Marvel superhero, right? Make a lot of money, and be known like everywhere. And then when I found out like the Ninja Turtles and Marvel wasn't a real thing, it completely broke my heart. And I'm like, right, I've got to start from scratch. I've got to figure out what I want to do now. Right. And so oh my goodness, I was a hairdresser. I worked in a college as an enrollment clerk. I was an MMA fighter and then ended up in hospital. Yes. And they told me that if I carry on, like I couldn't move my neck, damaged my entire spine and everything. I was on so much drugs, it was ridiculous. I had a collar brace, and they said to me, if I carry on doing this, then I'm going to end up paralyzed. Right, so
God.
I was like, oh wow. So again, I had to start from scratch because I finally found something I love doing, and kicking ass is so much fun, Rebecca. Right, you would know as a rebel, as a rebel.
I would. I did Muay Thai boxing last week when I was on holiday. I had a Muay Thai boxing class. It was amazing.
Oh my God, right. This is the thing, right? So I absolutely loved it, and then I kind of had to switch gears again and find out, okay, what else am I going to do? And then fell into becoming a police officer, right? And
Did you? I didn't know that.
Yes, right. So for 6.5 years, I was a police officer, right? Which again was so much fun because I guess all of these things that becoming an MMA fighter, police officer, kind of fed into the whole role of me wanting to be the superhero.
Right, yeah.
I didn't realize it at the time until I kind of reflected back and I was like, okay, this stuff makes sense now.
Yeah.
But then again, I ended up in hospital. right? But
Okay.
this time, yeah, but it was really weird because it wasn't in the line of duty, Rebecca,
Oh,
right? Yeah, it wasn't. I literally went to bed one night, woke up in the morning, jumped in the shower, and as soon as the hot water touched my skin, it just started burning. And I'm like, okay,
no.
what's going on here? So I jumped out, went in front of the mirror, my whole body overnight came out in a rash. I didn't know
No.
what was going on here. I went to the hospital, got loads of checkups done and tests and all this kind of thing. And I remember waiting in the consultation room, and the doctor opened the door, took one step in, and looked at me, and he said, "You were lucky to get here when you did." And I'm like, "Well, what's
Shit.
going on?"
Yeah.
And he turned and goes, "This form of rash, right, is brought on by stress,
Right.
like a lot of stress." And he goes, "And if you didn't get here when you did, your throat would have closed up."
Okay, no.
Yes. And in my head, I was thinking, holy crap, what if it closed up during the night? I would never have seen the next day.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have woken up,
no. Oh
right?
my God.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, I've got to find a whole different career again.
Yeah. Yeah. All over again. Oh my
Right.
God. So the stress of the job literally could have killed you.
Yes. Right. And I never ever thought, I thought it would be something like in a line of duty that would have done that, not
Yeah.
sleeping in my own bed.
Yeah.
Right.
That is some wake-up call.
It is. And so I then had to switch again. And then I decided, and every time, you're probably seeing a pattern here, Rebecca, but every time I change careers, it's something completely different to what I was doing before. And so now I was like, oh, I want to get into events. And people are like, hold on a minute, like you're living in like La La Land. You don't have no qualifications, no experience in events. No one's going to hire you. But I was like, I'm going to do events and I'm going to be international. And they're like, okay, you're dreaming here. Like, it's not going to happen. And then a couple of weeks later, I actually got hired by a company to do events.
Right.
And it was an
Amazing.
international company where, yes, right?
Bravo.
It was an international company. I remember going in for an interview and they saying to me, when can you start? And I'm like, wait, hold on a second. You know, I have no clue what I'm doing, right? And they were like, that's fine. Are you willing to learn? And I'm like, yeah, of course I am. And they were like, great, pack your bag because in 2 days you're flying to your first event in Malaysia.
Amazing.
So it just kind of evolved from there. And then when I went to these events, they were business events, right? Probably a
Right.
lot of events that we've all been to now. Right,
Yeah.
we had a speaker on stage talking about a topic, yes, or several speakers at an event. And I was in the back of the room and I'm listening to all of this and seeing all of them. I'm like, this is a whole new concept to me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this was a whole thing.
This is a world I knew nothing about, and there
Right.
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I was learning and I was absorbing, and I'm like, huh, this is what business is all about. Now, in college, I studied business, right?
Of
And it's
course you did.
nothing like that at all.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Right? And so I didn't realize how much I was actually absorbing in the back of the room listening to all this, right? So I then became the events manager within 4 months of me getting this new job, this new,
Right.
right? And I'm like, oh, okay, this is strange. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now they want to hire me and promote me within 4 months. That doesn't happen in corporate. Like, it takes
No.
years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then they were like, well, do you want to learn sales? And I'm like, why would I want to do that for? Everyone hates salespeople, right? I don't want to do that. And they were like, no, take a look at this. At these events that you've been to, where you've been the event manager, the salespeople have been making this much. And I'm
Ooh.
like, hold on a second, right? And I'm telling you, it was at 4 or 5 times more than what I was making,
Wow.
right?
If you want to earn money, get into sales.
Yeah, once you get really good at
Yeah.
sales, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what type of business you get into afterwards, it becomes so much easier,
Yeah, definitely.
right?
Yeah.
And I got mentored by some of the best people in the industry as well, right? And saw a lot of the speakers on stage selling and how they're selling. And I'm like, huh, okay, let's learn how to do sales and start doing low
Yeah.
ticket, then ended up on high ticket and became one of the top closer in the company.
Of course you did. Of course. Because you just go, what I love about all these stories is that you have like the novices edge. You know, when you're new to something, because you don't know it's supposed to be difficult, you don't know it's meant to be challenging. You just go, well, I just need to do this. And it's beautiful when you get that, because it's really hard to create that. So
Mm.
yeah, you just went, yeah, I just need to do this and then this will happen. Okay, it works. Yeah.
You know what? You're the first person to pick up on that, right?
Right.
Because I remember when I was working in events and then progressed to sales and everything really quickly, like within a
Mm.
few months. I remember the manager, right? He goes to me, "How are you doing this?" Right? And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "There's people in this company that have been doing it for 20 years plus and can't do what you do. How are you doing it?"
Yeah.
Right? And it was exactly that. And I said to him, I go, when you look at the difference between me and everybody else, they've all been in the industry. I haven't.
Yeah.
This is all new to me, right? So I've got nothing to compare it to,
Yeah.
right? So I'm just taking the information you're telling me, relying on that and just doing it.
Yeah. You got nothing to hold you back. You got no negative beliefs. You've had no bad experiences to make you scared or anything like that. You just crack on. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And so what did he start doing? He
What?
started employing people outside of the industry.
Ah,
Right.
right.
And so we had all sorts of people on the team that were like in theater previously,
Cool. Great.
right? That were like motor mechanics, right? Like something completely different. Now they want to learn something different, like I did, right? And then just taking the information. And what you find is actually easier to train people that with a blank canvas.
So much easier. When I ran my recruitment business, that's exactly what we did. We did not recruit previous recruiters because they
Right.
came with bad habits, preconceived ideas, blah, blah, blah. We recruited people from retail, hospitality, and air stewards
There you go.
and beauty counters. We did loads of recruitment for, you know, people who sell brand new houses.
Mm,
And we got loads of people from beauty counters into the house sales teams because they've got the customer service experience
right.
and they know how to sell. Boy, do beauty counter ladies and gentlemen know how to sell. You go up for a lipstick and you come away with like
Yes,
tons of stuff.
it's true. It's true. And also
Yeah.
you turn around and kind of believe, I need all this stuff. I have to
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. It's really important that I have 3 creams for my neck. Which is no different from the cream for my nose, my chin, but it feels different.
Oh my
All right, go on, carry on. This is great. I'm loving it.
And then so then all of a sudden I'm learning all these different skills in business, right? And it was almost like a patchwork quilt because I'm learning a bit about this and a bit about this rather than kind of understanding how it all works together.
Yeah,
And so as I started doing more and more of these events, more and more people got to know me, right? So my network expanded as well. And now all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, can you come and do what you do for this company with me?" Right? I've got events going on, right? And I
brilliant.
need people to sell. I need people to like put events together and all of this. And I was getting so much work. It was ridiculous. Right? I had to start
Brilliant.
saying no to people because I was like, there's only one of me. Right? And so I remember then the company asked me that they had this big resort that they'll build out in Fiji and Costa Rica, right? Where
Wow.
they do their like high ticket events, right? You're talking about 100K plus.
Wow.
And
Nice.
so I remember they're saying to me, "Oh, we want you to go to Costa Rica." I was like, "I don't want to go to Costa Rica. I'm good where I am. I'm traveling, right? I don't want to be stuck in one place." And they were like, "Okay, we have actually hired several people to go to Costa Rica to kind of help expand the resort, but no one can do this. We need you there." And I was like, "No, no, no, I can't do this. Like, I'm good where I am." To the point the CEO picked up the phone and was like, "We need you there."
Wow. That's amazing.
Right? And I was like, "Oh damn. Okay." I was like, "But let's we're gonna make a deal here. I'll go down there, try it out for a few weeks. If I don't like it, I want to come back."
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, fine.
What's
We'll
not
do
to
that."
like about Costa Rica, by the way? I've heard it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and it was a beach resort. right? So it was awesome, right? But not only that, but they paid for my apartment. They paid
Wow.
for my flights. They paid for my food and water, right?
Wow.
And I was getting paid commissions on top of that,
Amazing.
right? So I'm
You
like,
were
I'm
you were
living
living the
the
dream.
yes, right? And I'm like, it can't get any better than that. I've got the sea, I've got the pool, right? And then we had like a week off. We booked a flight to go Mexico because it's only a 4-hour flight from Costa Rica to
Right.
Mexico. We were like, yeah, let's go Mexico. I was there 2 to 3 weeks. The company shut down.
No. No.
Yeah, shut down.
Heck. That's
Right.
really bad.
I was like, what the hell? What just happened here?
Yeah.
We had events going on with people there, right? Paying us for all sorts of different packages. We're taking payment, and the company shut down. And I'm like,
Oh, that's awful.
what do we do now? We're going to tell people that are here that have just
Yeah,
paid thousands of dollars to be here,
that's so bad.
right? And so we had to break it to them. We had to let them know because it was going to go viral, right?
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
company, it's an international company. They're going to find out. They're better off
Yeah.
finding out from us than on
Yeah.
social media, right? But what that then meant was I got evicted, no place to live.
Okay.
I had no food, no water, right? And our bank accounts got shut down.
Oh no. Oh my God. And you're in Costa Rica.
Yeah, so now I'm like, I'm homeless in a foreign
Yeah.
country and don't speak the language.
Oh my God. What did you do?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I laughed.
Did
Like,
you?
I laughed. I was like, this is such a ridiculous situation to be in. How do I go from living the dream to
Yeah.
having nothing, right? In a click of a finger.
Yeah. It like moments. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just laughing. I was like, if I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what happened then was I think, they always say it's not until you hit rock bottom,
Mm.
right, that you realize what you're actually made of,
It's true. It's true. It's
right?
when you test it. It's
Yeah,
true.
right. So at this point, I guess because I was laughing about it, and all my colleagues they were crying because they had no idea what they were going to do next,
Yeah.
right? What was going to happen. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. Right, got to make the most of it. And so I was like, it could be worse.
Mm.
I'm in a
Yeah.
warm country. I could be in a really cold country. Then
Yeah.
I'd we'd be stuffed, right? And I was like, if worst comes to the worst, I can just go sleep out on the beach.
Yeah, it's
All
true.
good,
Yeah.
right? And so because I wasn't in that whole worry state of mind, right? And I was actually looking for solutions. I guess at that point, I kind of was like putting the pieces together and I realized, hold on a second, we've got a whole resort here,
Mm.
right? I was like, the main company was feeding the resort, like being able to pay the bills, pay the staff. The resort is still open. It's just not
Okay.
making money now,
Okay.
right? So I remember going to the resort manager and saying, hey, you got bills to pay and staff to pay. Let me help you promote this resort, right? And in return, just give me one of your rooms because you've got no clients now,
Okay. Fair enough.
right? And I need like food and water. And I'll help you bring in more clients, right? And so she was like, but we got no money to pay you. We don't have money for marketing materials and this, that, because that's what they were used to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, we don't need any of that.
No, we can make it ourselves.
Right. And they were like, but
Mhm.
photos and things like that. I was like, no, what we do, I was like, people that have been here, they've been taking photos, putting it on their social media. We go on their social media and take their photos, right?
Yeah.
We can create leaflets and all sorts of different things, right? Online. And like we put it on booking.com, like on all these various different platforms where now they were getting clients coming in, right? And then I was like, hold on a second. Holy crap, this works.
Yeah. I love it when you go, right, I'm gonna try this. Oh my God, it works.
Yes.
I remember when we made our first sale on our online training program, we're like, oh my God, people that we don't know and never heard of have bought one of our online training programs. Yes, it works. Yeah, it's great.
Right. And so then I remember the resort manager saying to me, how do you know how to do all this? And
Right.
it literally was just sitting in the back of the room and listening to all these speakers, right? And didn't realize how much I actually learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually turned around and said to her, like, from the CEO, from in the back of the room, like, that's what everyone should have been doing, but they were clearly were not.
No, I love this, Kay, because so many people, you're in the same room as people, and you come out, I come out and go, right, we need to do this, this, and this. I've learned this, and other people come out and go, well, that was rubbish. And like, were we in the same event?
Yeah.
Really? You've not picked up anything at all? It
Right.
never ceases to amaze me how people don't pay attention.
No, definitely.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Did you know at TriCrest we've built a kick-ass culture coach and consultant program? So if you're a business coach or consultant and you're looking for something new, add to your toolbox, or even escape the 9 to 5, join us at our next event. Links in the information on the podcast. See you there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It is like everyone's got a different ear,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, it's almost like people choose what they want to hear or
Yeah.
interpret it a different way.
Yeah.
But if you keep open, if you're just open to just new information,
Yeah.
it's surprising on what can actually transpire,
Yeah.
right?
Always.
And see, I'm someone, and people always say this to me all the time, right? I'm someone that goes into a room and I'm quiet, right? Because I'm watching and I'm listening, right? What are people saying? How people are behaving, right? What's actually going on here? And I just watch and I listen to people, and you can pick up so much just by
So
being an
much.
observer,
Yeah. So
right?
much.
And people are like, is everything okay? You're really quiet. And I'm like, yeah, I'm watching and listening. What's going on here? Right?
Yeah.
And so even like in the masterminds and the different programs I'm in now, and I'm watching the host, how are they doing it? What
Yeah.
are they doing? Because
Yeah.
most of the time it's all strategic,
It is totally.
right?
Yeah. Most of the time, I'm absorbing the content, but you're right. I'm watching how they deliver it, how they phrase things, how
Yes.
they position things, how
Hmm.
they've created things. So yeah, I'm constantly unpacking the mechanics
Right.
of
Exactly.
how it works. And that when I work with businesses, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm unpacking the mechanism by which they're running this business.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
cool. Okay. So resorts, podcasts, we still haven't bridged that
I
gap,
know.
Kay.
So I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
What happened anyway? So I was in Costa Rica,
Yeah.
right? Uh, Ended up being able to raise the money, right, to get back home.
Well done. Well done.
But then also what I realized, I was like, I've got to rely on my network now. I built a really big network from being in these events so that I just started calling up and like telling people, I'm here, this is what's happened, I need help. This is what's going on. Do you have any work for me? I need to be making money. Do you have any sales for me? I just started calling people up, and like the couple of people that came through basically saved me,
Wow. Brilliant.
right? And I'm
Brilliant.
still friends with them to this day.
Good. Good, good, good. They're
Right?
the good eggs.
Yes, absolutely. And so then I was like, oh my goodness, I can do this. So then I started helping other people on how to do events and sales, right? And
Right.
I was like, oh my goodness, I can do this for myself. This is pretty cool. Right? Like, okay, like, and I took one company based in Australia who was making $4 million in a year, right? And we went in, looked at the operations, procedures, and all those kinds of things. And basically, in the 4 months I was working with him, he made his first million,
Wow. Brilliant.
right?
Brilliant.
And I was like, okay, this is going to be easy now, right? We just start duplicating it, and it's like making more and making more, doing more events. And all of a sudden, he was making so much more in a year. And he was like, how the hell did you do this from being a police officer? And I was like, it was a journey, right? But then what happened then, right? And I was traveling all around the world, and it was so much fun. And I was actually living in Bali,
Oh, wow.
right?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm working in Australia. Let's be closer. Like, let's go live Bali. Why not?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And so that happened, but then the unexpected happened that no one was expecting.
No, no. I think I know what you're going to say.
Yes, the pandemic.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
all of a sudden, I had no more events. I had
yeah,
no more work. Right? I was like, what the hell do I do now?
yeah.
Right? And I remember having this conversation with somebody, and I was telling them about my experience. I was telling them about all the different things that I've done, everything that I've learned, what happened in Costa Rica, went to Australia, built this business to become a multi-million-dollar business, right? And she turned around and goes, wow, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, she's gonna turn into a client, right? But she goes, wow, you're like the world's best kept secret.
Mm.
I was like, hold on a second. I ain't trying to be a secret. But I did not like that. Because I'm like, I wanted everybody to know me. I wanted everybody to know that, I've done all these great things. How can I still be a secret? I was international,
A
right?
legend in your living room, Kay,
Exactly.
in Bali.
Yeah, right. And I was like, no, something's not right here. Right. And I was like, I still have to promote. Even there's a pandemic,
Mm.
I have to promote. And then I was like, what's this whole podcasting thing? Let me tinker around with that. Right? Because like everybody started to talking about it. People are doing it. And I'm like, okay, let me have a look. And I thought, let me just guest on podcasts. Let me see how that
Right.
goes. Right. And so I started reaching out to different people. Do you know what, Rebecca? Nobody would even respond back to me. I wouldn't even get
No,
no's.
that's so rude.
Right? I was like, if I was getting no's, right, then maybe I'll be like, okay, maybe they didn't like what they saw or heard. I don't
Yeah,
know. But I just wasn't getting anything. And I'm like, this is strange.
yeah.
What's going on here? And so I had to tweak and strategize and try different things. And then, Rebecca, I got booked on 100 podcasts in 60 days.
Okay, that's interesting. So there
Right?
is some tweaking that went on there that obviously worked.
Yes. Right? And I was like, holy crap. Then I had to hire
Yeah.
a VA to help me because I couldn't deal with all
No,
this, right?
that's a lot of podcasting.
Yes. But the thing is, it was easier during the pandemic because we weren't doing anything anyway,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
right?
it's
And
true.
I was like, some days I was having 4 in a row,
Bloody, that's
right?
quite tiring as well. I've recorded 2 or 3 in one day, and
Mm,
people are like, oh, it's only half an hour, but actually it's like doing 2 big coaching sessions in a day.
it
It's
is.
quite you have to
Yeah.
concentrate quite hard. Yeah, it looks very easy, but if anybody's tried it, it's actually harder than you think, as with all these things. Yeah,
Definitely, right? And so I was like, well, I'm not doing anything else right now. Why don't I just do as many as I can? And if they want to get me booked, then that's even better, right?
right.
So then I started doing all of this. And then, podcasters, they all promote on
Yeah.
social media and everything. And all of a sudden, people were messaging me were like, how are you everywhere? What are you doing? Right? And I started telling them, I'm just going on different podcasts. And they're like, but how are you getting booked on so many? And I was like, oh, this is a program.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, people want to learn how to do this. Let me teach others.
Yeah.
So then I started teaching others on how to do this and how to get booked, right? Now, being clear, I'm not booking people on podcasts. I'm
No.
teaching them this process that I learned
Yeah.
on how to do it themselves,
Yeah.
right? And so that was that. And then all of a sudden, all these podcasts I was going on, they were like, oh, what's the name of your podcast? And I was like, I don't have one. Okay, I've got to go create one now, right? And so because I built this relationship with podcasters, I was just ask them, how are you doing this? What's going on? What are you using? Right? And I started just asking questions because I didn't really know much about it at that point, right? And so I learned some bits and pieces and realized, oh my goodness, there's a lot that actually goes into doing a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Just setting it up and keep going and being consistent. And
Yeah.
so what I did was I started hiring different people, different freelancers, right, to do the graphics, to do the audio and video editing. And I always started with the video, right?
Yeah.
No, you can leverage video a lot more. I know most people are doing
Yeah.
video. I was like, no, 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 no. That's a trick that's being missed.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so I started doing video right from the get-go, and then got a copywriter to do show notes and learn about SEO and all these different things. And I'm like, okay, so now I understand it. And then people are like, hold on a second, how did you launch a podcast so quick? Because we did it in like 14 days.
Right.
Right. And so I was like, oh, that's another program. Okay, you know how to launch your own podcast. And that at that point, I then went to my freelancers and I said to them, hey, people are asking me questions on podcasting. They want to learn how to do podcasting. Like, do you guys want to jump on? Because I've got this idea of building this agency. What I didn't realize, and later I came to realize, was the fact that I've got all these freelancers, but I built a team.
Yeah, you have. Yeah. From the
Right?
ground up. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So they know how I work. They know the ways. They know like how things should be set up. And so that's when Make Your Mark Podcast Agency was born.
Brilliant. I love it. Absolutely fantastic. And you've not looked back.
I haven't. Instead, what I've done, I was like, well, I've got experience in events, in sales, right? And I've integrated all of that into podcasting because at the end of the day, that's what people want to do is monetize their podcast.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
they do.
So because I've come from a different background, I've got a different perspective and concepts on what you can actually do with podcasting.
Brilliant. Okay, so here's the thing. Somebody's got a podcast. It's been going for a while because what we need to make clear is that it's something like a tiny 1% of podcasts do more than 20 episodes. Most die after 20 episodes, don't they? Most people don't get to 3 episodes. They give up after 3. So, we're on nearly 200 episodes. We're in for the long term.
I love it.
So how, if let's start with a brand newbie. If somebody's starting out and they come to you, what do they get from you?
Okay, so there's 2 parts to this.
Okay.
The first part is what I'm finding is a lot of people want to start a podcast for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Right? And we've got to kind of break it down and go to the basics. And I always ask them 3 questions.
Okay.
Right, to see where they're at. And the first question is, why do you want to start a podcast?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's the whole reason? But you'll be surprised, Rebecca, the amount of people that have actually said to me it's because everyone else is doing it. It seems like the done thing to do.
Right. That's not a great reason.
No.
No.
No,
really not.
right? And so if that's the answer you're giving me, that's already ringing alarm bells.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question I ask them is, how many guests or podcasts have you been a guest on?
Right.
Right? And if they say to me, oh, wait, no, none. I'm like, okay. And then I say to them, what kind of podcast do you listen to? You'll be surprised. Still in this day and age, people be like, I don't listen to podcasts.
Okay, right.
Now, if all of those questions are like a no-no, then you're not ready to launch your own podcast.
Definitely. Totally agree.
And so at that point, I say to them, you're not ready to launch a podcast, but what I would like for you to do is start getting booked on podcasts.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first step, because you will be surprised, and you know this already, Rebecca, that how much you can actually learn, right, from being on podcasts, like the different systems podcasters use, how it works, what's the interview process like, questions, like all these different things that you wouldn't necessarily know if you did none of them.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, you've got to see it from the inside.
Yes, right. And then because you also see how much work has gone into this.
Yeah, you do.
Right? And then you get an idea as to, do you want to do that work or you don't?
Yeah.
Right?
I've had a few people go, so can you just run through what's needed to do the podcast? And I've given them free advice, and you can see them glazing over, and you're like, you're never going to do this, because actually now there's a ton of work involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so much harder to coach people that have no idea about any of the stuff that goes on in podcasting.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And so I'm never, ever going to take anyone's money, right, to do a podcast if I feel they're not ready. Yeah. But I will tell them straight and tell them what it is that they need to do first before they even get to that stage.
Yeah, good.
Right?
Good.
And if they tick yeses to all of those questions, right, then I know, okay, you're pretty much ready to start your own podcast. Okay. And so what I go through then is little things like helping them understand, because I have a different perspective and concept around podcasting. Right? And there's several ways to monetize, but we need to get the steps of setting up done properly, the foundations of your podcast done properly, because if there's any gaps, then that's when it's going to fall flat.
Okay.
Right. And so I actually like to kind of teach and coach people around the long term of podcasting, because that's what it's about. It's not
Yeah.
about just making money right now.
No.
If anyone says that they made money the day after they launched a podcast, I would like to know how they did that, because I've never heard it before. Right?
That would be a lie, Kay. That would be a lie. A bit of a fib. Yeah.
Right. And so you've got to be in it for the long term, which means you've got to have commitment, because there needs to be consistency.
There really does. So I listen to Joe Rogan fairly regularly, obviously the biggest podcaster in the world. Started in his living room.
Yes.
With his mates.
Yeah.
Did that. He said he did that for about 5 years. Literally, it was him and his mates for about 5 years. And then he said in 20, whenever it was, he had his first guest on that wasn't actually one of his mates. And then it gradually took about 5 years.
It's a long time.
Yeah, and I think that's what people don't realize. Me and my brother I think I told you we've launched our little sideline podcast.
I started listening to the episode that you sent out today. That was funny the way it started out. I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
Well, there's more. There's more where that came from. But yeah, we were talking yesterday as we were recording one. It took Google 5 years to get 1,000 users in the UK. And it's that length of time that people go, well, I've been doing it a year and I'm still not anywhere. And like, no, you've got another good few years to go to really get somewhere. It doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's with any good thing.
It's totally true.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no overnight success.
No.
It doesn't exist.
No.
And so when I go through all of this and kind of see where the commitment is, they're ready for it, all those kind of things, I actually explain to them, like, for example, a reason why I always say to people, have your own separate podcast website. Right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, do not integrate it into your own website.
I'm going to write that down.
No worries. Because I'm always looking at having as many different digital assets in your business, right? And when you start a podcast, it should be an asset aside your business, right? It's a marketing technique to bring in leads. That's the way I see it. Okay. And the more assets you have in your business, the higher the value.
Yeah, that's true. Right? Yes, that is true.
So when you have a separate website for your podcast, which means you have a separate domain, another digital asset.
Yeah.
Right? Because, so for me, I'm already looking at what my exit strategy is going to be like. What if I want to sell my business for $10 million? What other steps do I need to make in order to get it there so I can have that $10 million?
Yeah.
Right. And most of the things that you want to kind of think about in the beginning is having different assets in your business.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why I always say to people, have a separate website, but also because of that, your level of SEO, Google ranking also goes up. And you want to be that person that has all these different assets, all these different domains, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, your podcast, your website, all of these things show up when people actually do a search.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because just like you said earlier, like someone bought your program that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? That only happens if you build your authority, because guarantee people that don't know you will go and do their due diligence and do their research on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and rightly so.
Absolutely. And so you want to make sure you've built your authority, you built your brand. So when they do their research, they're like, okay, she's legit.
Yeah.
Right? Like she's actually does what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason. And the great thing with this is that it's all organic. You don't have to do Google ads. You don't have to pay anyone to do SEO. Right? It's all organic. So why not take advantage of that? right? But the only thing is, people don't know how to do this. And so
No.
I'll show them these little techniques that not really a lot of people are talking about or teaching or anything, because they're just talking and, helping people with the now.
Yeah.
I'm helping
Yeah.
with the now, but also build that business and that podcast out for the long term.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense. So I already have an inkling of where you're taking the business, because you're going to build it and sell it for 10 million, which is fabulous, rightly so. And if your business had a character or personality, how would you describe it, Kay?
Oh my God, like total quirky, like a big kid, right? It's a big kid. Because that's exactly what I'm like, right? And it's funny because I love playing games, right? And I like, and if you see on someone's profile, it actually talks about gamification,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Only because I am that person that wants to go and do escape rooms. I'm that person that goes and plays Crystal Maze. I'm
Right.
that person that goes to do a mud run, right? Hate being dirty, but I'll do a mud run, right? Right? And like totally make a fool of myself trying to climb a slimy hill that's got mud all over it, slipping and
Really?
sliding, and like
Really?
being that person.
Can we have photos of you doing a mud run, please?
Yeah, they're all on social media. I'm not
Brilliant.
fake
We'll
that.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll check them out. Now, what I always ask this question now, we've added it in. What's your dharma? What's your purpose in life?
Do you know what? It's funny because I recently had a conversation with someone who asked me something very similar and said, "What's your magic?"
Okay, yeah.
Right? I said, "What's your magic?" And for a long time, I was going, "I don't know. I don't know." I was like, "Podcasting?" They're like, "No, not what you do.
Yeah,
What industry you're in.
yeah,
What's your magic?" Right? And I'm like, this is a really hard question. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
And so then they carried on saying, well, the 10 closest people, if you ask them this question, what do you think they would say? I'm like, do you know what? I don't know, but I'm going to go ask them.
Okay.
Right? So I went and asked them, and basically they had several different things, but it all came down to one thing.
Mm,
Right? And they said to me, you're a good listener.
mm,
Right? Like you really listen. And someone else said to me, you remember the conversations you have with your clients.
right.
Right? Because they were like, we had this conversation a year ago and you still remembered. Right? And I was like, okay. And they're like, someone was like, you're compassionate.
Mm,
Right? You actually take in what people say to you, and you're really good at changing up the coaching to help that individual person. Right? And I'm like, okay. And then one person said to me, connection, Kay.
mm.
Connection is your magic. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they were like, you do it every day. And I was like, okay. And they're like, you connect people to their voice.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And I was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way.
yeah.
Right? And so when I heard all these different things, listening and being compassionate, I was like, that all goes into connecting with people.
It does. Yeah, it does. So the word is really funny. The word that came into my head was communicator.
Ah,
Yeah. So, and which speaks to connecting and all the other stuff you've described. So I think your purpose is to communicate messages between people. You are the connector, you are the communicator. I think the two sit beautifully
right.
next to each other. And even going back to you being a police officer, that you've got to be a really good communicator to do that well. Yeah, I think that's it, definitely.
And it's really funny because for a long time, like people have always said to me, whenever you go to a room, and I mentioned this earlier, you're like the quietest one there,
Mm,
right? And honestly, for a while, that kind of like that was a trigger for me,
right.
right? Because I kind of felt like, oh my God, am I sitting on the sidelines again? Are
No,
people not seeing me? Am I being invisible?
no,
Right?
no.
And it's not until I had that conversation, right, with people, and they were like, no, it's connecting.
Yeah,
I realized, no, I'm not on the sidelines. I'm not invisible. What I'm doing is listening and understanding other people that are in the room. That's more important because that's
yeah,
how I can connect with them.
yeah. without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so
Amazing.
someone said to me, there's a difference between connection and attention. You don't need
Yes.
attention, you need connection.
Yes. It's a deeper level. It's more emotional, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's with the
Right?
heart rather than the head.
Exactly. And so you
Yeah.
don't always have to be the loud person in the room.
No, and in fact, you know, that quietness, you can't listen properly and connect properly unless you are quiet. You just
Mm,
can't. It's impossible.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's lovely. Okay, so I have a question. So when Nick and I get together again to do some more fireside chats, Nick and
Mhm.
Becca's fireside chats, in about a month's time, what question would you like Nick to answer?
Oh my goodness. What
I have to
question?
write this down as well so I remember.
I'm not too sure.
All right, okay.
So I guess, well, I like Nick to answer.
Mm,
I guess one of the things I get asked all the time, right, is that the podcast industry is dominated by men,
okay,
right?
right.
And so they always say to me, like, how do you stand out, right, in front of a crowd that are not only men, but you
Mhm.
don't actually find in the industry that there's many people of ethnic background either,
Okay, okay.
right? So how do you do that? And have I found any kind of issues or challenges with any of that or working with men in the industry?
Okay, right. All right. I'll ask him. How do you stand out from the crowd? With him being a man, I don't know whether he'll be able to answer the question about working with other men in terms of challenges,
Mhm.
but maybe the angle I'll use is like, what do you perceive the
Yes,
challenges might be?
yeah,
Yeah,
take
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you perceive the challenges might be? Right, brilliant. I have got that. I will edit that. That'll be out in a few months.
Awesome.
Kay, you've been fabulous. Thank you so much. How can people find you?
Oh my God. Is it all right if I give your audience a free gift?
Of course,
Yes.
always.
Fantastic. And so what I would like to do is give everyone a free gift called 14daysto launch.com. Okay.
Okay,
And
wow.
what this does is it basically helps people, first of all, identify what are the foundations, the basics of really looking to start a podcast. And I specialize in video podcasting,
Okay.
right? If anyone wants to start a podcast, do video, you know how important that is, Rebecca,
Oh, it's
right?
essential.
Right.
Yeah,
Especially the way podcast is going, right? Is
yeah,
evolving and there's more video podcasts out
yeah,
there. You don't want to
yeah.
be left behind. And so it sets you up step by step as to the things to look into, right? When you're starting a video podcast, what different elements that you will need as a basic level at least,
Okay,
right? To get you started and how you can just put those things together and actually launch a podcast in 14 days. That's
okay,
exactly what I did. I didn't make it all complicated right in the beginning. As you progress and you start making money, then you want to add other elements to it than you can do. But this is just the basics to get you started and getting you out there, right? So if they
okay.
go to 14daysto launch.com, they can find that downloadable and it's absolutely free for your audience.
Great. I'm going to put that out there on the podcast. I'm also going to put it out to our coaches as well, and other networks I'm in. Definitely. Amazing. Thank you,
Awesome.
Kay. You have been brilliant. Have an amazing day. I'm going to stop record now. Goodbye and take care.
The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen. Grab your seat, let's have a blast.